Welcome to LawNext PR. I'm Bob Ambrogi, and this is the show where we put a spotlight on the latest news coming out of the legal tech industry, speaking directly to the people from the companies that bring you this news. Today, I am here live at ILTACON in National Harbor, just outside of Washington, D.C., speaking with Josh Blandi, the CEO and founder of UniCourt. Josh, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me today, Bob. Appreciate it.
Before we talk about the news, and I know you've got some big news you just announced, but before we talk about that, give us a little bit of a background on UniCourt and what you do.
Yeah, we've been around for about a little over a decade, since 2014. We're really focused on a platform around litigation data, analytics, and insights that covers over 4,000 state and federal courts across 40 states nationwide. And
what you do is, again, just to be clear, when you talk about litigation data, you're pulling out data out of the court dockets and making it available to legal professionals to use in any analytics strategy, however it is they want to use it.
Yeah, our kind of motto is putting litigation data where they want it. So those could be structured data in their infrastructure. Those could be direct integrations. They could be first-party applications like our research applications or analytics, or it could be other third-party applications.
Yeah. And just for comparison's sake, I mean, I know that there are other companies out there that do this in one way or another. How does your coverage compare to some of the others out there in the market?
I'm pretty confident to say we have the largest docket database in the US. I want to say we're approaching maybe close to 2 billion. Maybe we've surpassed that in terms of dockets and documents. Significant.
Yeah. And it's significant because it's not always easy to get this stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's last time I checked, there was like 18,000 different court systems in the United States. These are both agency and including the agency systems, but each one has its own system that operates off their own nomenclature, their own standards, what data they have and don't have. Really, the difficult job for us is accessing it, standardizing that, and then we can begin to do really useful things, modern useful things with it.
So as we're speaking, you've just released some news, the release of a new product called DART. What is it? Tell us about it.
Well, DART stands for Docket Analytics Research and Tracking, and it's our new platform that puts a lot of different AI around the search and allows, we've built out all the analytics on attorneys, law firms, judges, and parties. So now you can do a really deep dive into the history of, who an attorney is in a case, what is their litigation history, kind of gain some insights around their practices, right? And then, or you can showcase your own work with it, what are the—
For marketing purposes?
Yeah, exactly. What are the cases you've handled you'd like to highlight, right? And in what jurisdictions, before what judges, and what were the results?
Yeah. So how does someone use this? Is this a web tool that they can access or a subscription product, or how do they get to it?
Great question. DART is a application, a web-based application. Yep. The really neat thing about DART is it goes with our other product called Deep, which is a docket extraction and enrichment platform, and that's what all our APIs are built off of. So Think of it, UniCourt kind of had a little bit different approach where we spent the better part of 10 years building probably one of the most sophisticated API infrastructures around litigation data. We were some of the first to release APIs for accessing this, legal data APIs for accessing this type of data. And now we're beginning to build applications on top of it. So essentially, DART is built off on top of our APIs from Deep, and it's the same APIs our clients have been using for years. And it's also the same APIs that are used to integrate into other third-party applications.
Mm-hmm. So is it fair to say that with the APIs, you're providing your data to others to use in their own applications, in their own ways, and those others could be law firms, they could be legal organizations, they could be other legal tech companies, right?
That's correct.
And now this is a much more sort of not direct to consumer, but I guess you could say sort of direct to consumer kind of a product where they can come in and use it directly without having to go through an API.
Yeah, the kind of way we look at it, I think there's a few things we feel like we could do better than anybody else in the market, and that would be around advanced docket research, analytics, and tracking. And so we develop first-party products for that. And then kind of everything else, I would say, if there's a legal tech company using litigation data, I would say 8 out of 10 of them are using our data in their applications or products. And so for everything else, we just kind of open up the ecosystem to let everyone else build off of it.
Yeah. So can you give me an example of how, say, a lawyer would use this product? What kinds of analytics would they be able to get? What kind of use cases might they want to use it in?
Sure. I think I'll start with the research piece, as that's kind of how it starts. But One of the really neat things about the research is that you can do a natural language search, and that will, roughly probably get most of your results back, or most of the time will serve you up results that you can easily find what you're looking for. But when you're doing more advanced research, right, it allows you to modify your natural language search into filtered searches or into very advanced Boolean searching. And the cool thing about, when you do a filter and then onto a very advanced Boolean searching, that's the same query language that's used in our APIs. So literally you can develop a search that you like, that you want to repeat over, right? And then you can throw that into the APIs and you can start pulling that same data into whatever system you want to power with it.
So is the use case going to be most often by somebody who is in a case and wants to get data related to that case, or maybe they're preparing for litigation or something and want to do research into other cases? How do you
Both, right. So imagine you can take a natural language search and you can easily modify that to a very complex search, right? Find the cases that you're looking for, and then you can dive into those cases, and from the dockets, you can actually then begin to dive into the analytics on the players. So for example, you can dive into an attorney and you can see all the cases that he handled. Does he do defense work or plaintiff work? Where does he do it at, right? Counsel has he posed and how often? And you can see those cases. What judges has he been before and how often, right? And you can look at those cases. What firms does he work for, right? So it really gives you a 360 view kind of on your opponent of what they handled.
Yeah. Can I do it down to the level of types of cases? If I have an intellectual property case, can I see how what their record has been in IP cases?
That's correct. You could filter it by case types. We're even working on the outcome piece to it. So you could say, show me cases of this type of case that went to trial and got a judgment or verdict, right? And what was the amount? How often does he win at trial? How does he rank relative to other attorneys in that jurisdiction? And it's all kind of underpinned. Since the very beginning, starting back in about 2016, we put a lot of work in what we call normalizing our entities, which basically means we know the John Smith from all the other John Smith, that real world John Smith that is involved in a case, in all of his cases. And now we can cluster those cases back to that unique John Smith and produce analytics around that entity itself. So that now requires, we'll not only get dockets from courts, but we get all the bar data across the United States. In fact, I think, Tim Stanley, but we power their attorney listing site. Just with our data in that. But so we do a lot of work around attorney normalization, firm normalization, and judge normalization.
Right. And again, for anybody watching this right now, I mean, the normalization is important only because there could be a whole lot of attorneys with the same name, or even law firm names can get messed up. And so normalization is a way of making sure that when you're talking about this law firm, you're getting everything related to that law firm, no matter what variances on the name might have appeared in different dockets or whatever.
Exactly. Or a lot of courts, they'll list the attorney on record, but not the law firm on record. So you have to now link that attorney to the firm they work for, right?
Yeah. Is the searching across dockets, across jurisdictions, or is this something where you're kind of confined to a particular court system, or how does that work?
Yeah, you can search across all of our cases and all of our documents. We've now, as of this spring, we finished indexing over 1 billion documents. So now you can begin to search for the content of those documents. And we're working on pulling out a lot of very structured content out of there. For example, anytime a document gets filed, we're extracting out what attorney filed that document, right? We're beginning to mine out claims from the document. FactPad will be coming out next year with a semantic search. So now you can look at similarities of cases. So show me cases that are similar to this and had outcomes greater than X. That's kind of where we're heading.
I know that there are a number of companies out there in the market that do litigation analytics of one sort or another.
Right.
You've already said that one of the ways that you're different from those other companies is in the breadth of your coverage. Are there other ways? How else do you kind of differentiate what you've developed here from some of the other products that are already doing some variation on this?
Yeah, I think the reason why our clients use our services are, I'll call it the breadth and depth, because you can say you cover a court, but to go get 10, 20 years worth of filings from that court actually takes time and, it is challenging, to say the least. Also the reliability imagine you have all these connections to courts, right? They break, they change, they don't work for a variety of reasons, right? So we put a lot of work around making our connections reliable to the point where docketing teams now rely on these connections to track their dockets, right? And missing a deadline's pretty critical, right? So I think that the depth, the breadth, the reliability of our connections, and we do the extra work on all the structuring of the docket itself and the normalization of the entities themselves. If you look at like a lot of the other legal analytics products, you'll see like the same attorney analytics appear 4 times for the same attorney or same judge. And you'll see things like, when you look at a party, they'll have like 4 names for the same corporation, right? And that really comes down to the normalization not being right.
Right. What else about Dart has got you excited? What else should we know about this?
So we actually did 2 major releases. We did Dart release, and then we just released a extension of Deep, our other product. Again, that's the docketing, extraction, and enrichment platform. And we released what we call case widgets. And what we found is that a lot of our API clients love our structured data, but when they spend a lot of development on building search around it and building views around it, like docket views. And so one of the problems we're solving for with the case widgets is we have a case search widget and a case details widget. And what that allows you to do with literally a small snippet of code, you can embed that in any application, and it allows our enterprise search to work in that application. So imagine you're in a matter system, or you're in a knowledge system, and you're in a research system, and you want to embed docket search in there so you can quickly find or search cases. It literally puts our enterprise search directly in that application. And it works kind of hand in hand with the APIs. So you can pass certain parameters into it. Like, for example, if you have a matter, you could pass the docket number, you could pass the main party, and you could pass the jurisdiction to look for that specific case, to link that matter to a case, for example. The other thing it does is we have the case details widget, same thing, small snippet of code, and allows you to embed docket views. So imagine you can have a button that says, find my case or research cases. Another button that says, view this docket, right? And it is an interactive docket now, which means you could go in, you could order documents, you could update the case, you could put it on a tracking schedule. And we're building out like the next phase of our widgets is the analytic widget. So you can embed an analytic widget. So you click on an attorney on a docket, and then you could go directly into analytic widgets. So therefore these are all built off of our APIs. Any of our clients can go in and build these type of views, but it takes a lot of work, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of design work that goes around it, a lot of work around the search queries that you're going to do it, to make those happen. So this literally allows them to, with almost zero development time, put dockets wherever they want it.
Yeah. How do you handle credentialing for all those different dockets?
It works with the API. So it's the whole authentication with the API. You pass your API tokens in. And so that's how it works. It's meant to work hand in hand with your APIs. Imagine like anything you do in the widget is also making WebSocket calls back to you with the information that you just served up in that view.
Okay. Something else I meant to ask you, I don't know if this is part of these widgets or not, but part of the name of Dart was tracking. Yeah, the T is for tracking.
Yeah.
So what kind of tracking do you enable through that?
2 types of tracking. I'll call it dockets. So this main use case here is docketing teams tracking either daily, intraday, hourly, whatever frequency they want. A lot of the bigger firms want to be the first to know when something happens, and they want have that extra time to draft some strategy around the next steps. So it's a perfect fit for docketing. And then we're also doing a lot of the entity and tracking. So this is where you could say, hey, I want to know anytime a party or an attorney files a new lawsuit, right? Or firm, or anytime an issue is mentioned in a complaint, for example. You could create that alert for it. We have things in Deep called smart flows that you can build. So these are different, I call them litigation views, where you could create a view, and that view could be my firm and my clients. And anytime they're involved in a new lawsuit, I want to automatically pull the complaint of that lawsuit. I want to have it summarized in a list of the claims and facts, right? And then now you can build agentic workflows off of that. That's great. Go find who in the firm has done this type of work before, right? Work products around that.
Well, that all sounds great. We're just about out of time. Anything else that you wanted to point out about either of these new releases?
Yeah, I mean, You should, if you're at ILTA, you should definitely stop by the booth and check it out. I think what we're doing is pretty next level in terms of litigation data. I think it's
Yep.
the
And if
cutting
you're
edge.
not at ILTA, UniCourt.com.
Yeah, you can check us out at UniCourt.com.
All right.
I'm happy
All
to
right.
show you.
Well, Josh, thanks so much for taking this time to talk about your news.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me, Bob.
That does it for this episode of LawNext PR. You can find all of our episodes on YouTube. Just search for LawNext PR there. We're also in the LawNext Legal Tech directory, which you can find at directory.lawnext.com. This is Bob Ambrogi. Thanks for being with us today.